Given that inZOI is officially unleashing to the world tomorrow via early access, I thought that I would do something a little bit different on the channel today, and I thought that I would download their Creative Builder, which is kind of like their studio demo version, I think it's Creative Studio actually, of the build mode and the character mode that will feature in inZOI when the game fully releases tomorrow. You might have heard of inZOI already. It is a new life simulation game, so it's meant to rival, I say rival, The Sims. The Sims is obviously kind of like a monolith at the moment of life sim games, and everybody knows The Sims. Now, inZOI is coming into that space as sort of a new player. I don't know how it's going to pan out. We've seen a couple of little trailers and things like that, some gameplay from creators, but I'm kind of interested in the build mode. Now, I'm coming from Dreamlight Valley. If you know and you're around on the channel, you'll know that that's what I play usually, but it would be nice to see, and I'm excited to see what the build mode holds in inZOI compared to Dreamlight Valley. I think it's going to be far superior, but I don't come from like a Sims background, so I don't have that experience with the Sims building tools already. So because of that, I wasn't really sure what to expect when going in. But I do think if you enjoy designing, if you enjoy just having a bit of a fun time, being a little bit creative, this might actually be right up your street, because I think there's a lot of realism involved compared to The Sims, but equally there is so much customization. So I think it's going to be fun. It is worth remembering this is a demo, and when the game comes out, it is going to be in early access. So it's not going to be perfect, but it's definitely interesting, if nothing else. And I've had a good time seeing what the tools are like. But let me stop waffling on. Let's just get into it and let me show you what I've built, because I actually really enjoyed this. I had fun. All right, so this is what you get when you first load the build mode. You get a default lot, but we're going to delete that and we're just going to build our own. So I'm going to grab a room and then we're going to resize it just to really big for this one. I know this is not a tiny home, but stairs are a bit of an issue in this game so far, at least with what I've experienced. They're quite difficult to get to do what you want. So you can see that I'm playing around and it's not really playing ball. But I knew that I wanted a small set of stairs going up to a small level and then the full set of stairs going up to the roof, or the second floor, I should say, not the roof. But to do that, I had to do it in a different building because I couldn't get it to fit in the small home with the rotation. But you can see here that I've placed them down in the home now, which works. So it means that I can eventually get rid of that other gigantic home. That's a little tip if you do want to do that with stairs. If you need to work out a different kind of like angle for them, do it in a larger home. Don't do it in a small one if you're doing a tiny build. It just makes life a little bit easier. So you can see that I've gone in here and I've just kind of created a second floor, again, with the walls. Easy enough to do, pretty simple. I'm enjoying the process with this so far, and I thought that we could do a little balcony. So I thought it would be nice for the second floor to be kind of like set back a little bit. Is that the first floor or the second floor? I would class it as the second, but maybe it's the first. So I kind of like made that little glass balcony with the half walls that we get, or the railings, which is really nice. And now I'm popping on a front door. You'll see that I'm choosing between a couple of different doors at some point. I keep making the building smaller because I do want it to really feel like a tiny home, but the doors are completely customizable. I put that steel one down and I was like, that's not working for me. So we go through a couple of different ones. I did want it to fit with the modern aesthetic that I was going for. So that door didn't kind of like work for me. And then I was like, you know what? I need to go and fix the second floor because I've reduced the size of the bottom floor. I need to make sure that it fits. The roofs are okay. They're a little bit difficult. There's not much variation and you can't do any flat roofs right now. I mean, the one I chose, you can get relatively flat, but for now, it's just kind of like what you have to deal with. You can see that I settled on a nice glass door, and I do think that fits with the modern vibe. And then I popped in kind of like a crystal style window alongside a sliding door on the second floor. I just thought it would be lovely to kind of like get out of bed, go onto that balcony, open the sliding door. All round, very, very nice. The windows, I was going back and forth. They did feel a little bit too big, and then I found these square ones that kind of just had like wooden frames. And I thought, you know, they actually fit. They're not too big for the space and they're not too big for the building itself. So I'm going to pop those in and you will see me try a different variation of each of those styles, mostly because I just wanted to double check. But I do go into the customization tab and then you kind of just have like free reign here. You can choose all different types of wood. You can choose plastics. You can choose colors, all sorts. So I just went with the plastic because I wanted it all to match. So I've used one specific color. I've used a hex code of 494949. And then I know that when I go through to all of the different elements, if I want them to match, I can just pop that hex code in, which is really nice. I will say that there is an eyedropper to allow you to drop styles between things, but it can only be done for identical pieces of furniture, which I don't like at the moment. I think it could be a little bit smarter because if I'm using things from the same kind of like family or the same product is the wrong word, but if it's the same furniture family, I want to be able to drop between them, but you can't. It has to be identical products. I'm not sure why I keep saying product, but I've changed the ceiling of this overhang on the balcony to be kind of like a wood, and I was playing around with the pattern scale. Just thought the wood adds a really natural tone to it, and I loved how that turned out. So I added the swatch for that to my little swatches panel, which means going forward, if I do want to use that color for anything else like floors, I can bring that swatch in as well, which is really nice. I love that feature. It's gone a little fast, but you'll see that I did customize the rest of the roof. I just changed the roof tile and then I kind of like made it all a little bit darker. But I got rid of the railings because I was going to try a different one. I wasn't sure whether I wanted glass or whether I wanted kind of like a steel or a metal. But I thought, you know what? I kind of like the glass, so that's what I do settle on in the end. But I do think the steel ones work really well as well. The only other thing, the issue that I'm having with kind of like using the railings is that for some reason it deletes the roof. So I got rid of the initial railings because I wanted to have a column and then I couldn't fit the column right on the edge. So I ended up making my own column out of kind of like just little wall pieces. But every time I did that, it deleted the roof. So I have no idea why. I don't know if that's a little bug. Maybe it is. But you'll see here, I'm just creating my own columns by doing like a single tile, kind of like around the roof. And then I can just drag those railings between the columns and then between the house and the columns to bring the glass back in. But I'm doing the roof again now, which is easy enough. You can change the kind of like the angle or the pitch of the roof on this particular one. I like this because it just feels closest to a flat roof. And then I just went through and changed the settings back to what I had before. So make everything white, bring everything kind of like in black with the rest of the trim on the windows. And that really just helps the house to feel as though it was intentionally built that way. As you can see, I just deleted that spare room we had at the back because I don't need that anymore and I don't need the stairs. And this room at the back here, this is actually going to be the bathroom. So I thought it would be a nice touch to just have that kind of like at the back of the house. And it just let me have the same floor space because the stairs end at the wall. That little floor space of the bathroom upstairs gives a little bit of walking room as well. So it helped kind of just like set the proportions and make sure that everything kind of fits nicely. Even though it's a tiny home, we don't want it to feel totally cramped. So I felt like giving the bathroom a big space was the best option. On the sides, I actually used these asymmetrical windows. They are from the same family as the square one, but I ended up kind of like using one that had a wider pane and a smaller pane. I don't know. I just thought that it added a little bit of visual interest. And then I rotated them so they were kind of like opposites, which I really like. I think it turned out nicely. I think they all fit, and because they've kind of got that crystal style, I don't know, there's just something about it. On upstairs and downstairs as well, I kind of like offset them. So they weren't like vertically aligned. They were kind of like offset, one on each side. I couldn't work out how to frost the one for the bathroom. So unfortunately for any passers-by who might be kind of like walking through my garden, for whatever reason, they might be getting a little bit of a surprise when, when they walk past my bathroom window. Moving on to outdoor lighting, you'll see that they do have quite a few different options if you do play this builder. I don't know if there's going to be any more that come with the early access launch or whether this is it. I did try these kind of like large box sort of ones initially, but I felt like they were just a little bit too big for the house. And then I found these small ones, which I was like, yeah, this works. So if you hold Alt, at least it's Alt on my keyboard, you can kind of like freely place rather than snap to the grid. So that's what I did for those. Although I do try to stick to the grid as much as possible, apart from like if you're trying to place indoor furniture, because it just helps keep everything a little bit more neat. What I would love to see is like changing the size of the grid like Planet Coaster 2, so you can kind of like snap to different lengths. But for now, for early access, this is absolutely fine. I'm also just tweaking the floor upstairs on the balcony just to make sure that it kind of like matches, and that's where I used the same swatch as above. And then I brought some more lighting in. But this was a real struggle bus because for some reason it wouldn't come any further forward. I kind of wanted the light to be centered kind of like on the ceiling depth wise, but it just did not play ball. I could not get anything to work. It just kind of like wanted to go where it wanted to go, and that was pretty much it. But you'll see me try a couple of different ones and I'm like, if I try something else, surely it will work. But alas, it did not. I do think that it would be cute to have like a strip like this, but because of the snapping, I couldn't get them quite centered. But even if I use free mode by holding Alt, there was no way for me to then snap to an existing object. So I was like, I don't have the time to spend lining these up perfectly. The other thing which did really bug me, and I will say from a user experience point of view, I did not like it, is that maybe I'm doing something wrong. I could not find any way to select multiple items at all. Because if I'd put 3 of those kind of like strip lights down on the snapped grid and then selected them and then held Alt to move them, that would have made my life much easier. But because I can't select multiple items at all, like I said, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but because I couldn't select them, I ended up just not using them. But I would love to see that in a future update. That would make so much sense and it would make things so much easier to just be able to like even group items and then move them around that way. It would make it feel much more powerful. And that's kind of because I've been playing with Planet Coaster 2 a little bit lately, and you can group items in that way. So yeah, it's just, that's kind of a wish list for me at the moment. But other than that, I haven't found too many issues. There were a couple of little things that I ran into, but on the whole, it was a pretty pleasant experience using this builder. I do hope that it gets fleshed out, and I'm sure that it will as we kind of like go through early access. But as I said, on the whole, pretty good so far. You will see me kind of like looking at this light and it's floating, so that light doesn't touch the ceiling for some reason. Again, not sure if it's something I did, not sure if it's something that I didn't do, but I could not get that light to like vertically go up and touch the ceiling. So we've moved inside now and you'll see that I'm just playing around with a few different floors. This kind of like chevron pattern is gorgeous and I actually replicated it on the balcony instead of the plain wood pattern that we had because I wanted it to feel like it was flowing through. The other thing that I absolutely love is that when you go inside, you get a ceiling and it changes the lighting. So that means that you can see what the room looks like from the Zoi's point of view when they're kind of like in it, which I just thought was a lovely addition. So I'm playing around with wallpaper and flooring in this room. We've settled on the floor, but I was trying a few different wallpapers. Some of them were a bit loud, and you can't actually customize the individual colors in the wallpaper. It kind of applies it as kind of like a color wash, but then on some of the wallpapers, it also doesn't fit. So some parts of it will stay gold, for example. But I did find this really nice concrete effect for the ceiling, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to paint the ceiling dark because that feels like, I don't know, that feels kind of modern to me. I know this is kind of like a basic modern starter home, but that's what I was going for. This is very my vibe. I'm kind of like a black and white guy with like oak and stuff like that. So that clean and sort of like really minimal aesthetic is my vibe. Apart from the bathroom where we're in now, we're downstairs in the bathroom. And I was like, do you know what? I want like an emerald green, kind of like subway tile, but I thought we'll keep the chevron pattern from the floor. So it goes from the wall to the floor and we'll do like a nice marble floor in here. You can change this if you do want to download it, of course. But I just thought, you know what? Let's go a little bit luxury. That does feel luxury. That color green, I know that there's a specific name for it, and I'm hoping somebody in the comments can let me know. There is a specific name for that kind of like jewel tone green, and I just love it. That just screams luxury to me. You'll see a couple different options for the floor. I don't know why some of them light up because it does the same on the ceiling. I guess it's if you're doing a shop. But yeah, I did try this hexagon pattern and I was thinking maybe I'd do like a light pink to kind of like play off and complement the green. It didn't really work out for me, but I do put a light in the room. I picked this lovely pendant light to try and see what the colors actually look like. But I just felt like the patterns clashed a little bit too much. So I did change it back to the marble floor and then we just scaled up the pattern to make them feel like large format tiles. You'll see that there is a little bit of furniture lurking in the house. I did play around with that and then I decided I wasn't going to do the interiors. So there's a couple of pieces lurking. I mean, it looks good and I would love to see what you do with it if you do download this house. But for now, I'm going to do the garden. Well, I say garden. We're just going to do like a little bit of green space outside. So to try and do that, you have to place these big floor tiles and they have a really, it's a little bit rubbish, the grass texture. I'm not going to lie. You can see the pattern on it. No matter what I scaled it to, it looked like a repeating pattern. I was trying to change the colors because the color looked a bit muddy and kind of like yellow in places. I don't know. This whole like tile setup to do tiles for the garden, I'm not that keen on, but I'm not sure how it translates to the game because obviously I've not had the chance to play the full game yet. So maybe it works. Maybe you drop it in with the garden. I'm not sure. But either way, I also tried these like little pieces of grass, but they didn't do anything. They didn't match up. They didn't line up properly. And in the end, I was like, no, we're not doing that. So I just deleted it. But I did put in these lovely cypress trees as well. I feel like they're always a little bit modern. You know what? I might get myself some cypress trees because they do feel modern and I think they look great in this kind of like build. So I also added a window box as well because it just felt like it adds a little bit of color to the setup, and I think it just kind of like makes it pop. And who doesn't love flowers? I love flowers, but I'm sure we all do. There's also some big trees, which if you're doing like a bigger garden would come in handy. I did try them, but I wanted them close to the house, and the problem is they clip into the house, so they don't like stop at the wall. If you put it too close, it does end up clipping, in this case, into the bedroom. So I was like, Yeah, we're not gonna do that either. We're gonna have a tiny little front garden as if this is a terraced house in the UK or something, and then that's what we're getting. That's what we're doing for this one. This was not a garden build. This was kind of like a tiny starter home build, and I was like, yeah, that fits, that tracks. So what I ended up doing is I ended up just duplicating those cypress trees to kind of like make a nice little entrance, and then we do put a floor tile down again alongside some granite, kind of like stones outside. I think they're like a granite path. The other issue I have with those is that that's the only thing you can really do with those. I couldn't find a way to change them. I think you could change the color slightly, but I don't think there was any other options for those. So yeah, we ended up putting a little bit of grass, just a small piece, and I was like, can we have a lounger? And then I was like, no, that's too much. The grass, the stones, the cypress trees, and then I found this really nice little bench, and I was like, yeah, that feels like front garden related, you know? That feels like kind of like somebody's front yard, and you could have this nice little space just outside with the flowers where you could sit on a nice sunny day like today. And I don't know, it just all kind of like fit together. So this is kind of like the finished product. I actually really enjoyed doing this. I had a lot of fun with it. I love the light that I chose, the pendant light up on the balcony. The glass balustrade looks great. I think the flowers look great. The floor is beautiful. I absolutely love it. And yeah, I think it turned out really well, which I'm happy about. All right, that is the build. That is finished. As you can see, I kept it pretty clean and modern and small. That's why I started small. I've seen some incredible builds already on the canvas, which is kind of like the workshop. I don't know. It's where you upload your own designs and other people can download them. Obviously, I didn't do any interiors this time. I just kind of wanted to focus on the exterior, mostly to get a feel for the tools and the layout and the UI and all of that sort of thing. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised. I do think there are a few clunky bits here and there. The interface is a little bit clunky sometimes. It's not entirely being translated yet. For early access, I do think that there's loads of potential, which is what I'm always looking for in a new game. And especially a creative game. If you're a creative person and you love to build, potential is what you look for because it's only going to get better. Fingers crossed. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Did you enjoy the build? Do you like the look of inZOI? Are you excited to give this a try? Or would you want to see me do any other content around this game? Also, while I have you, you can download this preset that I built today from inZOI. It is on the canvas. It's on my canvas. So as soon as the game launches, I believe you can schedule it in advance, but as soon as the game launches, it should be available for download and you can just bring it into your own game and style it however you want with the interior. I think that's a lot of fun. Let me know if it works. I would love to see what you do with it, what you do with kind of like the interior, or if you change any of it, because you can go in and you can kind of adapt it, which is really fun. But thank you for watching. I will catch you in the next one. If you're new here, feel free to stick around. If you are a veteran of the channel, which I'm sure that many of you are, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And a big thank you to our channel members. I really, really appreciate the support.